Hello and welcome, I am the Sterling and today we are playing Going Medieval. We ended the last episode, the first day of spring 1376. A year has now passed and we are on the first day of spring 1377. And my word, a lot has happened throughout this year. So sit back, grab a cold one and let's get started. So as I said at the end of the last episode, there's a bit of a project that I want to do down here. But to be able to do that, I'm going to have to extend this wall. Initially, I was going to extend it all the way out here. But now, after having a bit of a look, trust me, I had a year in game to be able to work out what I wanted to do. I've decided that pushing the wall out this far is a bit of overkill. Instead, we're just going to push the wall out ever so slightly. We're going to have a space of 30 to this tower, a space of 30, then I'll build another tower here. Then there'll be a space of 30 and the tower will be pushed out here somewhere. That way, we'll be able to do the project I've got planned over here. So then why did I let a year pass? Because frankly, we didn't have enough limestone. Not even close. And you've seen me mine limestone a million times. You didn't need to see it again. And as you can see, I had a proper crack at digging out limestone out of this mine. It was ridiculous. I dug out so much. Or so I thought at the time. Out of all the raw materials that I dug out, I only dug out a little over 10,000 limestone, plus enough to make 3,000 limestone bricks. If you remember, we only had a few hundred at the end of the last episode. Now, you're probably sitting there going, yeah, but Sterling, you did all this mining, you've dug heaps away, you've obviously built the tower a little bit lower. Good eye. What else have you bloody done in the year? Well, for your information, I've been really bloody busy. Other than the fact that we've had a few fights here and there, which none of it was notable, I've been doing little projects around the place, such as adding marker stalls out the front, monitoring all our animals. I've had to start planting pine trees down here in the back corner. This isn't permanent, but I've needed to do it because I'm running out of timber and coal so quick. But I'll get more into that a little bit later. Of all, you've probably noticed our fields are significantly smaller. Why? It turns out my math wasn't a little bit wrong. I wasn't even in the ballpark. I was so far off with our math. I basically spent this entire year watching the kitchen. And as you see, I've completely redesigned it and making little tweaks and doing little things to it to get it at the most optimum I can. And what have I accomplished? Well, usually leading into winter, at best, and I'm talking at best, we usually go in with about 300 packaged meals. Sometimes not even close to that. Winter of 1376, we went in just over 3,000 packaged meals, and we've come out of winter with 3,500 meals. All because I was monitoring the way the kitchen works. I also have now turned off hauling once again for all our settlers because I found that our settlers were making a meal, then picking it up and carrying it to the food supply, coming back and making another. I wanted to optimize our kitchen and get the best results possible, and I think I'm doing that. Hence, I've made the field smaller because we still have a ridiculous amount of raw food. I can't seem to get rid of it. It is rotting quicker than we can actually turn it into food. So I've been slowly making our fields smaller and smaller. And then as we start to run out of raw food, I'll make them larger and larger until I find that sweet spot of raw food. Once again, I've also turned off half that major barley field we made down here because once again, the amount of fodder I'm pulling off it was ridiculous. We had no place to put fodder. It was rotting before we could actually feed the animals. So you're probably now going, well, Sterling, you're now producing over 3,000 packaged meals, plus you got all this raw food. Where on earth are you putting it? Throughout this series, I've slowly been growing our food supply stocks downstairs, as you see. This over here is for the seeds, but that's food, food, and food. It used to be a mixture of raw food and meals. Once we started getting ridiculous numbers of packaged meals, there was no place for either the packaged meals or the raw meals, and I needed storage fast. I contemplated pushing out the storage and making it bigger out here, but honestly, I didn't have the time. Our kitchen floor was chock-a-block full of packaged meals. It was ridiculous. In fact, it started overflowing into the surrounding areas, such as here, into the tower, and all down the front here. Hence, I ended up having to put a door in so we can then get outside to get the packaged meals. Honestly, I could have just left them because we were producing enough, a little bit rotten here and there. Didn't really matter, but I decided I'd do something about it. So we're overflowing with packaged meals. And as I was saying, I had nowhere to put them and I didn't have time to be creating new storage. So I decided I'd just repurpose the old fodder storage. And then I've slowly been making it bigger as needed, as you can see, because it used to only come to about here, which I feel was a really good solution because we weren't going to be using this anymore because we've now got this area here. But that now brings me on to why we're running out of timber. The kitchen is now so efficient that we burn through coal and timber faster than we can get it. That's actually now our new roadblock. This isn't going to cut it. I keep going out and cutting down trees. This is an afterthought that I haven't even really put into action yet. This is because we're desperately running out of timber. Of course, it doesn't help that now I'm actually producing coal as well. But once again, got no coal, as you can see, 0 coal. So before we start any other projects, my next project's going to have to be building a little man-made forest out here so we can actually start raking in as much timber as possible. Just cutting little trees here and there does not cut it. Not even close. Now, you may have noticed, or you might notice as we go on, the game is actually running significantly better than it has for a long time. I had no issues all throughout winter. I'm actually always a few episodes ahead, just as a bit of a buffer, because some episodes take a little longer than others to film and edit, and just in case life gets in the way, I don't want episodes to be late. So I'm usually about 2 or 3 episodes ahead. So this was filmed at the end of August, which means it's probably old news by now. I worked out that my CPU is one of the affected ones within the 13th and 14th Intel issues. So I've reflashed my BIOS with the new update that came out at the start of August, and so far so good. It seems to have taken away the issues I was having. So fingers crossed, the problem is solved. Anyway, I think that's enough gas bagging. I think you're up to date with where we are now. As I said, majority of the year was spent playing silly buggers with the food, and I've come to realise we need more timber. So before we start the project out here, we need to start the project out here building our little man-made forest. Now, how are we going to do it? Well, truth be told, I haven't really put that much thought into it. So first of all, we're going to need a hell of a lot more space than what we got here. Now, I could use this space over here and keep it all in-house, but I really don't want to. Only because I'd rather have this space for something else. I don't know what, but I want it for something else, not trees. Now, I've been saying for a while, ever since we built this wall here, that I want to actually dig this out a bit. Now, how does that look? Not 100% sure yet, but I do know that I want to force it that way. But when I was digging out the mine down here, especially through winter, they were getting a bit chilly, and I thought it'd be good if I could add some timber beams and actually put soil on top and enclose this mine. Then you could put heaters in there and the settlers would be fine. It would be great. And now I'm sitting here thinking about building this and making it bigger so we can have a bigger forest. Maybe that's the solution, because that would give us that much extra space. So maybe we can somehow or other, keeping it rough, push this out here, get it all the way out till it hits the wall, and then wrap around to that tower. And that could be a nice big forest we do. Yes, I like that. Well, where on earth are we going to start? Well, let's make it easy. Let's just start digging this out, shall we? Well, I'm probably going to want to dig it from here. But we've got to be careful not to flood anything, because you have to remember, this is full of water. So we'll have to be careful of that. Other than that, I think we can start getting stuck into it. Now, I am going to be taking the top off that over here. I need to be careful though, because in my experience, as you saw in a few episodes ago when we were attacked by trebuchets, all this terrain actually played a good role in protecting the tower. So I don't particularly want to take away from that. This section here, I don't think will make a difference. The trebuchets usually sit in the red over here. This is not in the line of fire. By taking this out, it will make it a little easier for us to be able to build walls internally in here. You'll see as we go along. Now, I want to really make sure that I'm careful not to make this a little bit too non-organic. So maybe I'll just start stepping it down like so, and we'll see where we end up, eh? Clearly, that is not going to work. I guess I could keep it going like here and just sort of step it the whole way through here. Might work, actually. Where does this end up? Bugger me, that might actually bloody work. Look at that. I might have to do something over here. I do plan on carving it in here a bit, just so then the tower is more prominent. Maybe step it up. I don't know. We'll work it out. Don't particularly want to waste too much time. I want to get in and start making timber. Maybe looking at it, we don't actually have to dig out this top section. See? Sort of making this up as we go along. What I might do is, before I go doing anything too drastic, let's just cancel all this here. It's always easier to dig it out than it is to put it back. Now I'll leave this bit here because I'll want to get in and dig out in there first, put a wall, then we can dig that out. Now, how are we going to do this? I feel we're going to need some pillars. So what we'll do is we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, and we'll stick it. How high? About there, isn't it? Have a look at that. What a fluke. We're correct. Willy-nilly just stick in some beams because it doesn't really matter too much. It doesn't have to be pretty. It is a mine after all. Is that high enough? No. Come on, Sterling. There we go. Now is that high enough? I do suspect at some point I'm going to be digging down here and the whole thing's going to collapse on us because I'll dig the wrong bloody thing. In the future, that pillar there is actually going to be quite difficult to dig around. Not impossible, but it will be difficult. I'll have to dig out around it, brace it, then dig out under it, then place another pillar, then I can unbrace it. Now, obviously, I'm going to have to come up with a new way of getting into this area. So I'll go through and delete all these ladders. This timber here will work quite well as a base, and then we'll be able to push it out. I'm thinking we'll make it about in line with here somewhere. So it'll probably come out to about here. Might even take it as far as to here just for the continuity, meaning I built all this underneath for no reason. But that's a bit of a norm for me nowadays, isn't it? Building a little something that we don't bloody need, not highlighting any sort of major project in particular. So now I'm going to need to add ladders so they can get into all this. The ladders are always so bloody fiddly. They should be able to reach that one from there. Like I said, once they destroy all this, I'll keep bringing this out. Now next, we'll add soil. Obviously, I don't need to do this side here, but I figure bugger it, while I'm doing it, may as well. Just delete those flags, and there we go. That's plenty of work for them to do, so let's hit play and let them get to work. We are now in the first day of summer and all the soil is now complete. Off camera, I dug out the clay and the salt and then replaced it with soil. Wasn't much, only took me 5 minutes. I've also gone through and roughed up this edge a little bit. I think I'm still going to go through and rough it up and have a bit more of a play with it. I still think it's a little bit too clean. And it's giving this whole area a sort of courtyard vibe, which is not necessarily what I want. I'm actually hoping once we add all the trees and whatnot, it will take away that courtyard feel. But for the moment, with it being so open, it definitely does have courtyard vibes. And once again, I'm probably going to have a bit of a play with this at times and see if I can get this looking a bit nicer. It still doesn't look quite organic. I decided to move the market stalls from here to here, only because I would like to have trees running down along the water's edge, and they were sort of in the way. Plus, I think that looks better like that. So now it's time to start adding the trees. I'm going to litter the ground with all different types of trees, just so it doesn't look so man-made. I want it to look a little bit more natural. Wow, that was very tedious and a lot of work. But it's done now. I can move on, and hopefully it looks good. Hopefully there's enough variations of the trees there and I haven't clumped them all too much and it just looks a bit crap, basically. So let's hit play and let them plant up some trees. Basically took us all summer and a couple of little deals with traders, but there we go. That is all the trees now planted. I built a little forester hut to house the saplings just to speed up the planting process. I also went through and individually set every single one of these trees to medium priority. Individually planting every one of these was nothing compared to going through and individually setting every single one to medium. My word, that was tedious. Now, the reason why I've gone ahead and set all the trees to medium is so then when we run out of timber like we have now, we can drop the priority of all our farms to low, and then all these trees will be the priority, so then we can quickly get timber, as we've actually done right now. There was not much need for us to be pulling anything off the fields right now, as we've still got plenty of raw food. Not to mention we got over 4,000 meals and no timber to cook any more with. I felt that getting this planted was the priority. And now that's all planted up, it should be easy to maintain. Every time they chop down a tree, we'll just replace it. The good news is, now that this is all complete and we're going to start raking in heaps of timber, we can now move on to the next project down here. Unfortunately, that will have to wait for another episode, as this is all the time we have for today. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.